Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to our channel. In today's video, we'll talk about how scientists looked at skulls from the Iron Age and confirmed that the ancient Gauls took part in a cruel ritual. You guys will be going to find the video very interesting and informative. So, let's start by watching the whole video. In November 2018, researchers at the Paul Valéry University in the southern French city of Montpellier are looking at a number of skulls that were found at the nearby Iron Age site of Lequelure, where the Gauls once lived. The marks on the skulls tell a grim story. They show that something horrible happened to the people whose heads they were after they died. Gauls in the past. Researchers want to find out more about what the Gauls are. These were a group of Celtic tribes that lived in France and nearby parts of Europe for about 1,000 years, starting in the 5th century BC. Like many ancient people, they didn't leave any written records, so most of what we know about them comes from the writings of Greek and Roman historians. However, the Romans weren't always fair in their descriptions of the Celts, and their wars were often bloody. The skulls. So, what the Romans wrote about the Gauls can be called victory's history, since they beat them and took over their land after Julius Caesar's campaign in 58 BC. And Roman historians were not likely to write about the Gauls in an unbiased way. This is partly because they looted Rome itself in 391 BC. But getting back to the researchers in Montpellier, they had 11 pieces of skulls from an Iron Age settlement in Lequelure to look at. The skulls were found with a variety of weapons, and it was soon clear that these were the heads of people who had been cut off. There were signs of violence on the skulls, and there were also signs that the brains may have been removed. The Egyptian armor palette shows the first known picture of a person's head being cut off. This was made more than 5,000 years ago. There were bodies of 10 people who have been killed and have their heads between their legs. They very well could have been the defeated enemies of King Armor. In the 1600s, Henry VII had Catherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn beheaded, as did Mary, Queen of Scots, in 1587, though that was done by Elizabeth I, not her great-uncle Henry VII. After the French Revolution of 1789, the French were also fond of beheading. In fact, the latest technology of the time, Joseph Ignaz Guillotine's evil machine, helped fuel the frenzy of aristocratic beheadings. Perhaps the Gauls' beheadings still had an effect on 18th century France. As previously stated, researchers from Paul Valéry University discovered strong physical evidence that the skulls had been severed, and historians of the time confirmed that the Gauls practiced beheadings. When Diodorus Siculus wrote about the Gauls of the 1st century, he said that they cut off the heads of enemies they killed in battle and tied them to the necks of their horses. Many of the Gauls myths that have survived also mention beheadings, but a taste for decapitation doesn't put the Gauls in a class by themselves when it comes to cruel and unusual punishments. In fact, we've seen this kind of brutality in many other cultures. Diodorus said that the Gauls put cedar oil on the heads of their most important enemies, put them in a chest, and proudly showed them to strangers. Could this really be true, or did Diodorus just say this because he thought the Gauls were savages? The French researchers wanted to find out if this claim was true or not. In order to accomplish this goal, they searched for signs of items on the bones. As was to be expected, they discovered cholesterol and fatty acids, both of which may typically be found in disintegrated human bones. In addition, they discovered cholesterol on the bones of animals that were discovered at the same location in Lequelure. On the other hand, scientists discovered something distinctive on 6 of the human skulls that they did not find on the animal bones. These human skulls included traces of dipteneroid compounds, which can be found in pine resin. During this occasion, Brouwer shared his speculations regarding the possible motivations for the Gauls' practice of preserving the severed heads of those who had been slaughtered. According to ancient sources, embalming was reserved for only the most dangerous and consequential adversaries. She told The Guardian that it was possible that this was done so that people would say things like, "See that face? That was some tremendous warrior." It would appear that the Gauls placed a high value on these embalmed heads since, when they sought to acquire them, they refused to pay the weight of the head in gold. The researchers are unsure how the heads would have been kept if the Gauls had been in place. They might have painted over them or dipped them in resin to cover them. It is also unclear whether they only embalmed key members of the tribe or merely enemies of the tribe. According to the assessment of one knowledgeable individual from Liverpool University in England, it could have been either one. In an interview with The Guardian, Dr. Rachel Pope stated that we knew from looking at statues that it was normal practice in Mediterranean France to put human heads on exhibit. Putting guns on display was a widespread practice during this time period, so this was very much like that. The evidence from this site demonstrates that human heads were certainly preserved through the process of embalming. However, it is unknown to us whether the Gauls utilized these heads to mock their adversaries or to praise their heroes. All of this was about the video for today. Please tell us what you think about the video below. Don't forget to give our video thumbs up and to share it. If you like what you see on our channel, please subscribe. We're glad you tuned in. In the next clip, we'll see you all again.